The Forgotten Return. Captain Maya Chen stood motionless on the bridge of the Prometheus, her dark eyes fixed on the view screen that displayed the outer rim of what was once called Federation space. 3,000 years had passed since her people last saw these stars, and the sight filled her with a mixture of grief and cold determination. The sleek, obsidian hull of her ship reflected no light from the distant suns, a ghost sliding through the void with purpose that burned like a furnace in her chest. "Captain," Lieutenant Sarah Torres called from the tactical station, her voice cutting through the bridge's tense silence. "We're detecting a Federation patrol group bearing 27 Mark IV. They appear to be pursuing something." Maya turned, her movements precise and controlled. 3 millennia of evolution in the dark spaces beyond known space had changed humanity, sharpening their reflexes, heightening their senses, and hardening their resolve. They were no longer the species that had been driven from their home with lies and betrayal. They were something more, something the Federation had never expected to face again. On screen, Maya commanded. The view screen shimmered and revealed a scene that made Maya's jaw clench. 3 sleek Federation destroyers were closing in on a small transport vessel, its hull scarred and engines smoking. Even from this distance, the ship's design was unfamiliar, clearly belonging to one of the species that had emerged during humanity's long exile. Sir Torres continued, checking her readings. "The transport is filled with civilians. Families, by the biosign readings. The Federation ships are charging weapons." Dr. James Harrison stepped forward from his position at the science station. His white hair and weathered face spoke of decades spent preserving the truth that the galaxy had forgotten. "Captain, this is exactly what they did to us. Same tactics, same ruthless efficiency. They're about to execute refugees." Maya's hand moved to the command chair's arm, fingers drumming once against the metal. Around her, the bridge crew waited, with the patience of predators. These were not the desperate survivors who had fled Earth 3,000 years ago. These were their descendants, trained from birth in the harsh realities of the void, where mercy was a luxury that meant death. "They don't know we're here," Maya said quietly, her voice carrying the weight of years and the promise of justice. "Let's remind them what fear feels like." The Prometheus decloaked like a nightmare emerging from the dark. Her sister ships, the Retribution and Vengeance, materialized on either flank. The 3 vessels moved with predatory grace, their advanced HULL designs unlike anything in the current Federation database. They had learned much in their exile, taking the best of what they found and improving upon it with human ingenuity. The Federation patrol leader's voice crackled over the communications channel, tinged with confusion and growing alarm. "Unknown vessels, identify yourselves immediately. You are in violation of Federation space." Maya smiled, but there was no warmth in it. She nodded to her communications officer, Engineer Marcus Vale, whose cybernetic enhancements gleamed softly in the bridge lighting. These modifications were another gift of their exile, allowing humans to interface directly with their technology in ways that made them incredibly efficient. "Federation vessels," Maya's voice cut through space like a blade. "You will cease your attack on that transport and withdraw immediately. I repeat, identify yourselves." The Federation captain demanded. "By what authority do you give us orders?" Maya stood, her dark uniform bearing no insignia that Federation records would recognize. But on her chest was a simple patch that would have sent shockwaves through Federation command if they had understood its meaning. The blue marble of Earth, crossed with a silver sword. "By the authority of the dead," she replied. By the authority of the betrayed. By the authority of those you thought you had erased from history. She paused, letting the weight of her words sink in. We are humanity, and we have returned. The silence that followed was profound. In Federation records, humanity was listed as extinct, victims of their own violence and primitive nature. For 3,000 years, that lie had been taught in schools, repeated in official documents, carved into monuments that celebrated the galaxy's liberation from the human plague. The Federation captain's voice returned, shakier now. That's impossible. Humans were destroyed millennia ago. They were a failed species, too violent to survive, failed. Maya's laugh was cold as the void between stars. We didn't fail, Captain. We evolved, we learned, and we remember everything. She turned to Torres. Target their weapon systems. Disable only. We want witnesses. The human ships moved with impossible coordination, their weapon systems tracking targets with precision that defied Federation understanding. The energy beams that lanced out were surgical, exact, removing the Federation ship's offensive capabilities without destroying the vessels themselves. In moments, the 3 destroyers hung powerless in space, their crews alive but helpless. The refugee transport, apparently forgotten in the chaos, began to limp away towards safer space. This is impossible, the Federation captain whispered over the com. Your technology, your ships, how did you survive? How did you become this? Maya's expression hardened as she stared at the disabled Federation vessels. These were the same type of ships that had bombarded Earth's surface, that had hunted down fleeing civilian transports, that had executed the survivors they caught. The same ships that had carried out the systematic extermination that the Federation later blamed on human civil war. We survived because we had to, she said, her voice carrying the weight of 3,000 years of struggle. We survived because in the darkest corners of space, where your kind feared to go, we found something you never expected us to find. She paused, her eyes burning with purpose. We found each other, we found truth, and we found the strength to return. Dr. Harrison stepped beside her, his hands working on a datapad. Captain, I'm reading massive communication bursts from their ships. They're transmitting everything back to Federation Command. Good, Maya said. Let them know we're here. Let them remember what they tried to forget. She turned back to the view screen. Captain, you and your crews will return to your superiors with a message. Tell them that the children of Earth have come home. Tell them that we know what they did. Tell them that justice has been a long time coming, but it has finally arrived. The Federation ships began to retreat, their emergency thrusters carrying them away from the human fleet as quickly as their damaged systems allowed. But Maya knew the real message was already traveling at light speed through subspace communication networks, carrying news that would shake the very foundations of Federation power. As the enemy vessels disappeared into hyperspace, Sarah Torres turned to her captain. Orders, sir. Maya looked out at the stars that had once been humanity's birthright, stolen through treachery and maintained through lies. But they were home now, and they carried with them the truth that would set the galaxy free or burn it down trying. Set course for the Kepler Nebula, she commanded. It's time to visit some old friends and show them what their extinct neighbors have learned in the dark. Sins of the past revealed 3,000 years ago. Earth had been a jewel in the young Galactic Federation. Its blue oceans and green continents, a symbol of life's persistence and beauty. Dr. James Harrison stood in the Prometheus's archive chamber, surrounded by holographic displays that recreated those final days before the Exodus. The images flickered around him like ghosts, showing the bustling spaceports, the diplomatic missions, the human colonies that had spread across a dozen systems. Most of the galaxy believes the official story, Harrison said to the assembled senior staff. Maya sat at the head of the conference table, her fingers steepled as she listened to the tale she had heard countless times but never tired of remembering. Sarah Torres and Marcus Vale flanked her, their faces grim as the truth unfolded once again. According to Federation records, Harrison continued, manipulating the holographic display, humanity destroyed itself in a civil war that lasted 50 years. They say we were too violent, too unstable to survive as a spacefaring species. They say Earth was a quarantined plague world that eventually died from its own toxins. The hologram shifted, showing the pristine blue world as it had been, then transitioning to the official Federation imagery of a dead, grey sphere wrapped in poisonous clouds. But Harrison's expression was bitter as he gestured to the false images. Every word of it is a lie, he said. Earth didn't die from human violence. It died from Federation biological weapons. Maya's jaw tightened as the real story began to unfold in the air before them. The holographic Earth transformed again, this time showing the true events that had been hidden from galactic history. Ships approaching the planet, not human vessels, but Federation science craft. Secret laboratories on remote asteroids. Meetings in shadowed chambers where the fate of an entire species was decided. The Federation's Council of Species had grown. Afraid, Harrison explained. Humanity was adapting too quickly, growing too strong, asking too many questions about how the Federation really operated. We were discovering things they didn't want us to know. The display showed human exploration ships returning from the galactic rim, their holds filled with strange artifacts and their databases, packed with information about ancient civilizations that predated the Federation. Human scientists were beginning to uncover evidence of previous species that had been eliminated or absorbed, patterns of control that the Federation had used for millennia. When humanity threatened to expose the truth about the Federation's past conquests, Harrison continued, they decided we had to be eliminated. But they were clever about it. They needed a way to destroy us that would also serve as a warning to other species that might get too curious. The hologram shifted again, showing the development of the plague that would eventually be blamed on human civil war. Federation bioweapons specialists, working in secret, had engineered a virus that would destroy human immune systems while leaving other species unaffected. But their plan was more sophisticated than simple genocide. They released the plague. On our outer colonies first, Harrison said, his voice heavy with ancient pain. When the infections began spreading, they offered to help. Federation medical ships arrived to assist with the crisis, but they were actually spreading the disease to every human settlement they visited. Sarah Torres spoke up, her voice tight, with controlled anger. And when humans began dying by the billions, they blamed it on human bioweapons research. They said we had created the plague ourselves. Exactly, Harrison confirmed. They had prepared false evidence, planted documentation in human facilities, even programmed some of our own computers to support their story. By the time anyone could investigate properly, most of humanity was dead, and the survivors were being hunted as dangerous plague carriers. Maya stood and walked to the holographic display, her hand passing through the image of Earth in its final days. She had never seen her home world except in these archived memories, but the connection she felt to it was as strong as gravity itself. Every human in the fleet carried that same connection, passed down through generations of exile and hardship. My great-grandmother was 7 years old when the evacuation ships left Earth, Maya said softly. She used to tell me about the gardens in Beijing, about the way the morning sun looked coming up over the Pacific Ocean. She died never knowing if we would ever see home again. The hologram showed those final evacuation ships, packed beyond capacity with the last survivors of the human race. Only 12 vessels had escaped the Federation blockade, carrying fewer than 50,000 people out of a population that had once numbered in the billions. They chased us, Harrison continued. Even after we fled beyond the galactic rim, Federation hunters followed us into the void. They were determined to finish what they had started, to ensure that no witnesses to their crimes survived. Marcus, Vale manipulated his own control interface, and the display shifted to show the early years of exile. The human survivors had been forced to hide in the spaces between stars, in regions so remote and dangerous that even Federation scouts avoided them. They had learned to live in the dark, to build their technology from salvage and desperation. But we didn't just survive, Vale said, his cybernetic implants glowing softly as he accessed archived data. We adapted. We took the best of what we found in the void and made it our own. Technologies that the Federation has never seen, weapons, systems they can't understand, ships that can travel through dimensions they don't even know exist. The holographic display showed the gradual transformation of humanity over 3 millennia. Generation by generation, they had become something new while never forgetting what they had lost. They had encountered other exiled species, formed alliances with beings the Federation had discarded or forgotten. Together, they had built something the galaxy had never seen, a civilization founded not on conquest or control, but on the shared experience of surviving betrayal. The most important thing we learned, Maya said, returning to her seat, was patience. We could have returned centuries ago, could have launched our revenge when the wounds were still fresh. But we waited, we watched. We learned everything we could about how the Federation had changed, how their lies had evolved, how their control had spread. Sarah Torres pulled up intelligence reports on her personal display. And now we know the truth isn't just about humanity. The Federation has eliminated dozens of species over the millennia. The Kethmori, the Turali, the Vostai, all of them listed as extinct due to civil wars or natural disasters. All of them actually destroyed by Federation action, which gives us something more powerful than weapons, Dr. Harrison said with satisfaction. It gives us allies, species throughout the galaxy who have been told their missing neighbors died from their own failings, never knowing they were actually murdered. Maya nodded, her strategic mind already working through the implications. When we reveal the truth about Earth, we'll also reveal the truth about all the others. The Federation won't just face human vengeance, they'll face the combined fury of every species they've wronged. The meeting continued for another hour, covering tactical details and strategic planning. But as her senior staff filed out, Maya remained in the archive chamber, staring at the holographic image of Earth as it had been before the Federation's betrayal. "We're coming home," she whispered to the image of her lost world. "And this time, we're bringing friends." In the depths of space, the human fleet continued its approach toward Federation territory. Behind them, in the dark regions they had called home for 3,000 years, other ships were beginning to move. The exiled species were stirring, ancient grievances awakening, old wounds preparing to bleed again. The Federation had believed. Their lies were safe, their secrets buried with their victims. But they had made one crucial mistake. They had assumed that the dead could not return to speak the truth. They were about to learn how wrong they had been.